now, Tuesday night, April 8th at around 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Chase is here. Chase, BYU offseason. We did one BYU offseason pod. I feel like this is like the beginning of a baseball season where it's like, oh, wait, we just had the national championship happen and everything, and we don't get to see basketball on our screens for 7 more months. We don't get to watch college hoops for 7 more months. This is crazy. This is a long time, and I had big-time Sunday scaries after last night's title game.
Yeah, it's like saying goodbye to a friend or like a cousin you're really close with, and you just
it's
know
like
you're
going
not
on a
see them
2-year
for a while.
mission.
Dude, that's probably exactly what it's like.
I did 5 weeks.
It's sad as always, because we love the sport so much, and it delivered. And it especially delivered with BYU basketball and this season. What happened? The silver lining, Carter, and people often say this about the NBA, sometimes the best part is the offseason. It's that trade deadline. It's free agency. And college basketball has kind of turned into that. And it's just as the NIL market gets bigger and bigger and as more money gets thrown around, these off seasons are going to be pretty dang exciting. And BYU is no exception this year.
For sure. I think it's fun, team-specific. Nationally, it's a disaster. Like, trying to cover it and keep up with everything going on nationally. Football is like a whole nother nightmare. Football, I'm going to wait until I get the preseason previews that all these magazines and websites put out, and then we'll dive into it. But, like, basketball, I mean, it's team-specific. It is electric. I mean, think about today with the Egor decision, potential portal movement for BYU and everything. Like, it is very fun every single time you open up Twitter. And Twitter, the screen time for every BYU fan is through the roof. You're going to get that notification on, like, Sunday when you get your screen time report. You're like, I was up 37% this week. Oh, yeah, I was trying to see if Rob Wright was committing to BYU.
It's exactly. And that's what it's like in the NBA sometimes. The night of the trade deadline, I mean, you're like charging your phone just to look at Twitter and just have all the Shams notifications on.
Yeah, I love it. But let's get into it today. Kind of talked about it just a minute ago, but Egor Demin declares for the NBA draft. Teased that he was going to be on Sports Nation beforehand. Seems like they leaked it out to Givney. They put it out there, and then he goes on and does a press conference with everything and hops on BYU Sports Nation as well. Announces he will be declaring for the 2025 NBA draft. Chase, I know you agree with me here. 1,000% the right call.
1,000% the right call, and I'm just got nothing but pride and happiness for Egor, because he's going to go and make a lot of money, and he's going to have a lot of opportunities to showcase his talents there in the NBA. There was a point, we've been on this podcast. We said for a long time, maybe some of you BYU fans, people listen to us didn't like it, but we were like, he's not staying. I will admit, though, I was having some second thoughts there for a second. He did lead us along a little bit, not saying he was intentionally leading us on, but there was some legit mumblings about maybe he does want to stay. We know he wanted to stay. We can start off with that. He loves BYU genuinely, and I think he wanted to keep playing college basketball. But at the end of the day, the best thing for him financially, career-wise, even physically, basketball-wise, it's to go to the NBA and to capitalize on the stock that you have right now, be a top 2015, maybe even lottery pick, and start your career with a team, with the coaches, with development in what your dream literally has been for who knows how long. It's probably his entire life. So no need to delay it for Egor. Super happy for him. And it would have been fun if he had been back, Carter, but this is the right move.
It would have been super fun for him to be back. Congrats to Egor. Every BYU fan's going to be rooting for him. I bet so many BYU fans follow your model and said, I'm switching teams if whatever team Egor ends up going to. And it was just cool, man. Like, we've obviously talked to him a little bit, doing interviews, after games and whatnot, and, seen him up close and everything. But every BYU fan can feel that he's just so genuine, and it's refreshing because, look, everyone gets it, what it is at BYU. It's different. It's just flat out different than other schools. And to see someone come in and have a big time player like this come in and have a super positive experience and talk about how he truly, genuinely it was not like this, like, oh, maybe, long shot thing. No, it was a true decision of, do I stay another year in Provo because I love it so much? Or do I go to the NBA? The NBA, the ultimate dream, Chase. And he was still considering that. You saw all the press conference stuff, the video he put out saying he's going and everything. You can just feel how genuine he is about his love for BYU and everything. It's just really cool to see.
It is really cool to see. I think, going into this is a win-win for BYU at the end of the day. Like, having him back to play along next season, the talent they're going to have would have been really cool. They are going to get moves in the portal. BYU is going to be a really good team next season. I think just from a perspective of recruiting, right, you get to start the narrative of an NBA pipeline, one and dones, right? Even an international guy coming in, huge for recruiting purposes. And the other side of the coin, he loved it here, like he has nothing but good things to say about it, right?
Yep.
And he's leaving almost begrudgingly because he seriously considered sticking around in Provo. So that is as good as an endorsement as you can have if you're BYU basketball. And honestly, the school in and of itself, he mentioned he wanted to get his degree, right, and continue doing classes later on in life and all these things. And so I think it's honestly, this is best case scenario for both parties. Egor gets to go start his career in the NBA and make boatloads of money and showcase his talent, chase his dreams. BYU got to send him there. They were a big part of getting him there, and they haven't just this walking testimony of how awesome this school can be in Egor Demin.
Yeah, 1,000%, and I couldn't agree more. And we were talking about this off the air. The decision for him to look, if he came back, next year's draft class is also loaded. This one is too. I think if he improved his scoring and improved his percentages scoring wise, he could have probably been a guaranteed top 10 pick, improved his stock a little bit. But that risk, it just also doesn't necessarily seem totally worth it. And also, if he were to come back, you're going to have to give him similar money to what he would make as a mid-first round pick. And so then you're like, okay, look, $2.53 million. Do we give Egor that? Obviously a great player, or do we go out and get multiple contributors and multiple guys in here? And I think it works out best for both parties. I think it's the right move for Egor to get going, get to that second contract as soon as possible. And also, we also talked about this off air, being later in the lottery, or being maybe even if he falls to the 20s, which I don't think happens, you're going to a better team and a better franchise.
Yeah, I think, and on that point, we get to see BYU be relevant in 2 drafts at the bare minimum in a row now. Next one's obviously guaranteed, and with the momentum they have, this might become a yearly thing for us. But it's been a long time since someone was drafted from BYU. And so we get to talk about Egor, where we like him going, where we see him fitting in the league and his skill set, which is, I mean, what else can you ask for? A Sweet 16 run and sending a guy to the NBA is what BYU fans have dreamed of, like not even dreamed of. That was the wildest dreams. And now here we are, also landing #1 recruit, all these things. And so this just seems like a complete cycle of the program and where it's headed.
Yeah, and on top of that too, this first year for Kevin Young couldn't have gone much better. And then on top of that, you're about to send a guy to the league who can be a lottery pick. Let's say he's successful in the league, very quickly, which I think he can be. He's the perfect ambassador and the perfect person for BYU when, hey, you got to recruit. It's like, hey, yeah, that guy Egor Demin, who, is about to make a crap ton of money on his second contract and everything and is a legit guy in the NBA. Oh, yeah, by the way, he is, like you said, a walking testimony for BYU. I mean, he will give more glowing remarks than any other player that might have played at BYU. This dude loves Provo. And so just so many positives from this. I really don't think there's any negatives involved in my mind. And I know people would have been shocked and freaked out if, he went on Sports Nation and said, hey, I'm declaring or whatever. I don't know. I think people would have just been like, you know what, congrats, man, like, go kill it. And I also think BYU fans are starting to become more level-headed about this stuff. because they have so much faith in this coaching staff and the amount of money and resources they're putting into this program. Like, hey, if this guy's moving on, clearly they have a plan in place to, okay, this is where we're going to go from here.
Yeah, I know there was some BYU fans on Twitter, even those who commented when we asked for questions for this podcast, who were like, who's going to be point guard next season? What's the plan?
We'll get into that.
We will, but like we were saying, the positive is, and the momentum this coaching staff has built, and kind of the trust between fans, right? This outside perspective and inside, is that they're going to find someone. Like it's going to happen. They did it last season, right? With a roster who basically had no one on it, right? Kept key players and then went and just grabbed a team that ended up going to the Sweet 16, being one of the, I guess they finished AP poll ranked 13th, Karter, which is a huge shout out to this coaching staff. They're going to do it again, which again, we're going to get into who's going to play point guard next season.
Yeah, let's go to some questions real quick. We're going to not just do questions at the very end and run through them. We'll sprinkle them in throughout the show depending on what we're talking about. Shout out Jennifer Smith on Twitter. She's asked, any guesses where he'll end up? I'll be an instant fan. So the projections have him anywhere from, I've seen from 10 to 20. So I feel like anywhere in there is a fair guess. Those teams you're looking at like the Orlando Magic, the Chicago Bulls, the Mavericks, potentially the Suns, Spurs, teams like that at that point.
The Miami Heat. Pretty much, if you're going to watch the NBA playoffs, look at the teams that just miss it in the play-in. That's his range right there. Top of the lottery, and then maybe the worst playoff team, somewhere around there. That's what we're looking at for Egor range.
Let me ask you this instead. Where, I know this isn't an NBA thing, but where do you think would be his best fit in that sort of range realistically?
I think there's a few places I like. We kind of talked about off the podcast. But first off, what you want to, if you're Egor, is to play, right? And I don't think people realize how rare it is to actually get minutes in the NBA as a rookie. It doesn't happen to a lot of guys. Like maybe 24 get minutes in their first season. A lot of them go G League, right? A lot of them just ride the bench the entire time, get garbage time. So I think it's important for him to, I don't know if important, like he'll develop either way, but I'd really like to see him like get 10 minutes a game, and if that's too much to ask, maybe it is, but I think he has the skill set, right? And it's up to the team's discretion, the coach's stuff. So where I think he could even get that, I think a team like Chicago, who is dealing with a lot of young guys, who's in this kind of limbo phase of they're not competing, they're not quite tanking, but they have opportunities for guys, could be an awesome spot for him. They also have, kind of a fun team who likes to spread the ball around. They have shooters that kind of fits right in Egor's wheelhouse. And then I wouldn't mind seeing him, and this is more of a stretch, but if he went to San Antonio, Karter, that might be like dream destination for Egor Demin. They'd have to fall pretty far in that lottery.
Well, would they? Because don't they have someone else's pick? I know this is not an NBA podcast. Don't they have Atlanta's pick?
I think you're right, actually. We'll have to get stats department on that. But if they used their second lottery pick on Egor Demin, that'd be dang fun.
Yeah, I don't hate either one of those. And like you said, you want him to go to a place where he can play, but at the same time, you also don't want to go to one of these disastrous culture franchises like the Hornets, for example, or, typically the Wizards. And so you'd like him to go to one of those places with shooters around him where he can develop. And, I mean, San Antonio, he gets to go play, obviously, with Wemby, ton of size, a lob threat, probably the best lob threat in the league. Then you get to have a quick guard like De'Aaron Fox, 2 ball handlers right there, and also Chris Paul's on roster, so you get to learn from a vet as well. You're not going to be asked to do too much right away. I think I like that one the best, to be honest.
It'd be super fun. It would be awesome to watch, and I think he'd have a real chance to actually play there. If you're thinking, he's going to fall and maybe we can get him to a really good team, I wouldn't hate it if he landed on the Denver Nuggets, for example, who are struggling now. Who knows when their playoffs gonna end, what pick they end up getting, right? Someone like, I don't think Detroit would end up going that far, but if Golden State ended up having a short playoff run and they ended up getting out early and trying their pick on another ball handler, right? That could be fun for Egor. So I think he's in a really good spot, Carter, because you're not in, like you said, the dregs where if you're like the 5th pick in this draft, you could end up going to Charlotte and just having just the worst time. But you're also not fringe first round where you're losing money or whatever. You're right in that kind of sweet spot where the odds are good. You go to a team that's taking it seriously, wants to compete, and is going to give you a chance to do so.
1,000% agree. 1,000% agree. And I will say this, and then we can move on from the Egor stuff and go into more BYU roster breakdown. But I'm so high on him in the NBA. We've talked about this a lot on this podcast that I think Egor's game just fits perfectly in the NBA. You can't play Houston Cougar defense in the NBA. That's a foul every single possession. And he's not going to have to deal with Kelvin Sampson in the NBA in the way they play. It's a lot more free-flowing. There's so much more space, which fits his game perfectly. He's got to work on the jumper. He's got to have an honest jump shot. Once he has an honest jump shot and he's confident in his stroke, I mean, dude, the sky's the limit for him, man. He's got so many unteachable things, and I think he's going to dominate workouts. I think he's going to dominate interviews. And I've talked to multiple draft scouts in the last week. They're still very high on this guy. Some of them, like, too high where I'm like, okay, let's pump the brakes even a little bit. There's some other guys I like more in that region right there. But I think he's going to fly up lottery boards because once he gets in these workouts, dude, how many guys can play a true point guard spot at 6'9" with his vision, his attitude? He does everything the right way, and there's no thoughts about him being a potential locker room cancer or anything like that. He's going to be able to work in any locker room, and so I think he's going to be a great fit, honestly, wherever he goes, and I think he's going to fly up draft boards because of that.
Yeah, he's humble. He works hard. They're going to love his workouts. They're going to love his measurements at the combine. Yes. And he's going to kill the interviews. So, he's 6'9", Carter, and has the best vision in college basketball. Like, people, and the way that the NBA is played right now, look at the best players, specifically Nikola Jokic. These guys who can see the court are becoming so valuable. I'm not saying he's going to be Nikola Jokic, but that skill set is becoming one of the best things. So if he can improve in scoring and get to that point, he could have a really, really awesome NBA career. By the way, stats department got on it. The Spurs do have that Atlanta pick. So that's second, right? The second of the Spurs' first round pick could end up being Egor Demin range. It would be really awesome.
That would be sick. That would be awesome. The other thing is that one draft guy was texting me, and he was like, is Egor actually 6'9"? Is he legitimately 6'9"? I'm like, at worst, he's 6'8" without shoes.
Yeah.
And that they're just going to fall in love with that. And like you said, it also feels like in a world of me basketball, take your turn basketball, AAU, hey, I'm going to go get mine, all that crap. It's kind of refreshing, and it's kind of rare to find someone who's so unselfish.
Almost two. There was points where we were in this season. We were like, I think Egor needs to take this shot, that shot. He needs to go to the hoop there or there. He just loves to pass and find guys. And I don't mean this as any offense to anyone on BYU's roster this season. He'll be passing to the best shooters in the world. BYU had some awesome shooters. They had an awesome offense. But this is the NBA, man. He's going to be finding dudes who are shooting 45% from the corner and get to do special stuff there. So.
Yeah, and if he can get to that second contract, if he could get to somehow, some way, a fringe all-star spot, man, you're set for life. I mean, not even then. If you get to an RJ Barrett level, you're set for life.
Generational wealth, yeah.
Got to get there. Got to get there. And you can get there by the time he's, 23?
Yeah, that's the crazy – he just turned 19.
You can get to ridiculously insane contracts in your NBA career, and depending on how long he plays, if he stays healthy and everything. But we'll see. Congrats to Egor. That's awesome. But now with Egor gone, Chase, there is a huge hole at the point guard position because Dallin Hall has hit the portal. He is gone. He is out of here. And so now this is what it is. Have we done a podcast since he hit the portal?
No, we did one right before.
But we knew it was happening, right? I can't remember.
Hey, yeah, we
Oh,
did.
don't lie. We knew. We all knew. Everyone knew.
Yeah, we knew. It's no big deal. No, we did know that. We did not spoil it for anyone.
No,
but we
we
did.
don't want to
We
spoil
did.
that crap. But anyhow, so Dallin Hall hits the portal. Best of luck to Dallin. Obviously, everyone knows we're big Dallin Hall fans, and we'll root for him wherever he goes, unless it's Utah. I don't think anybody will, but I don't see him going to
He's
the
not going to
University of Utah.
Yeah.
He's I got to find out who his agent is too, because his agent's talking with all the big dogs as well. Gonzaga, Carolina. I saw Robbie was reporting that as well. I think he ends up going to a different team, but that remains to be seen. Anyhow, Dallin's gone. I don't think, and there's not a world he comes back, in your opinion, right?
No, the door was closed, and you could read it in his thing. He was saying goodbye for good,
Yep.
and I think we talked about this a little bit. But the story with Dallin, look, he wants to start, he wants to play, and so you can't blame him for going to a place that's going to offer that. BYU was not that place. They're looking for something else in the starting point guard position, and so he I think that was made known to him, and maybe if it wasn't explicitly, I think he also knows the way this season's gone and everything. And so he's going to a place where he feels like he can play and show his skill set the best. So I got no problem with him doing that. I wish him best of luck.
100%. And I think he'll do great wherever he goes. He's going to go get a bag wherever he goes as well. I mean, like, I feel like Dallin Hall he's almost in that Sam Darnold camp a little bit for the Vikings, where comes in and all of a sudden has a pretty solid season. Dallin Hall was the best backup quarterback in football, best backup point guard in college basketball this year. Sam Darnold might have been the best backup in football because J.J. McCarthy was supposed to start for the Vikings, and now Sam Darnold goes and gets paid this offseason. Dallin Hall's doing his thing.
Yeah, he might be the Joe Milton of college basketball.
Joe Milton's not getting paid now.
I'm just kidding.
That's like Elijah Crawford, where it's like he showed flashes. Like, I like it. I would be very intrigued by this project.
Yeah, he had one good game against the Bills, who were actively not trying to win that game. Yeah.
See, we didn't even get a Panthers reference in there. We got a Patriots one. You happy?
Exactly. I'm pulling the rug on you. I don't want to hear anything about the Panthers. Let's move on.
And so the Hornets, I think, no, never mind. But yeah, going to the Twitter stuff right now. Void at the point guard spot. There's a massive hole there. At Clarkster Stew, he said, maybe the most glaring question with the news: who's our point guard? Obviously, AJ Ritchie will handle the ball a ton at times, but would love your guys' thoughts on finding a true point guard in the portal and the role they'd play on this team. Chase.
We've said this before, so sorry for being repetitive, but this was BYU's question 6 months ago. This is what they were looking at, is who can we get to play point guard and be dynamic, someone who can get you a bucket while also running the offense with confidence. That is priority number one. We've been knowing this even before the season ended. This has been in the works. This is how it's going. So if you're BYU, you were looking at the transfer portal. That was the obvious option. And obviously, Dallin leaves. Elijah ends up hitting the portal. And so they are legitimately without a point guard on the roster right now. So not only do you need to go get a point guard, you probably need to get two, Karter. You need to find a backup in there somewhere.
That's the other thing, too, is it's interesting because, okay, how do you find this backup point guard? Do you go find a mid-major that averaged, 15 to 17 points per game and he's going to be willing to take a bench spot? Or do you take a flyer on a guy who was on a Power 5 team and was on the bench and you go, hey, come play this similar role here? I think that's going to be curious to see. I'm very curious. I think they go probably with a more veteran guy at the backup spot that's played more college basketball. It would be my guess. But then you got to go, okay, who's going to be the starting point guard? And the rumors are flying, Chase. We did talk about this a couple times. Rob Wright, that's the rumor right now.
That's the hot rumor. There's no need to mince words on this podcast. We're not affiliated with the school. We can name names. It looks like it's happening. I don't want to, obviously, a lot of things need to be done. And maybe by the time we get this podcast out, maybe either the rumors have died, maybe he's already committed. Yeah. Either one. But if there's a crystal ball, it's at 100% right now by the guys who know their stuff. And we've talked to some people as well. So it's pretty dang exciting. We've been saying actually months ago that this would be perfect for BYU, getting Rob Wright into this program, playing next to AJ, Richie, Kaba, all these guys, and to see it happen, at least what we think is going to happen, is crazy, but also a testament. Like, BYU can do this now. They can go out, the top names in the portal, they can just go grab them. It's a combination of an elite coaching staff, a great recruiting pitch, and a huge fat big old Brinks truck, courtesy of a lot of old guys who make a lot of money who went to that school, and they're players for all these guys, and they're shucking off Duke and UNC in Kansas to grab someone from Baylor, right, who was one of the top recruits, the highest rated point guard in his class, played 1 year, and now decides he wants to change the scenery. Oh, guess what? BYU's right there. You should come here. And so we haven't even talked about what it's going to look like on the court. If it does happen, of course, don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it's just a testament to how far BYU's come. We talked about it, right? Egor leaves, comes a pipeline, NBA, you have success in the tournament, all this stuff. Now, when that season's over, it's not a fluke. This wasn't a one-off season for BYU. They're right back to reloading. Next year's team's going to be better than this year's team by, I don't want to say a long shot. This year's team was awesome, but it will certainly be more talented.
There's a reason BYU has the 5th best odds to win the title.
Yep.
That's
before any Rob Wright rumors, by the way.
Before any of that, they knew BYU was going to be a player in the portal. 2 things about this is, one, we knew this, Chase. We've talked to people in the building that they knew in the portal they were going to need to look for a dynamic guard, a scoring guard that's really explosive. And if Rob Wright does end up at BYU, that's exactly what you wanted. It doesn't get more. It's a perfect fit, and I think it's a perfect fit for Rob Wright too. He was in a tough spot at Baylor this past season because you're going against all these guards. You got to go against Jeremy Roach, who they paid a bunch of money to as a 5th-year senior, and all this. VJ Edgecombe, who's the top dog coming in the door at Baylor. There's so many guards that he was having to compete against there. He wasn't able to play the best of his abilities. And on top of that, he played pretty dang well in spots in games where he was able to actually get time, or when Roach got injured and everything, especially in Provo against BYU. He was outstanding in that game. Chase, I remember you and I looked at each other and go, oh my gosh, man, he might be the best. Like, him and VJ, obviously VJ was great in that game too, but he might have been the best player on the court in that game.
He was unreal, and he did it in the biggest moments, the absolute clutchest shots from both of those guys, Edgecombe and Wright. And you're right, you and I were just like, this is we said it after that podcast, we're like, this is one of the funnest college basketball games we've ever seen from an offensive perspective. And the guard play was so elite on both sides, but particularly Edgecombe and Wright were on that. Like, look, Carter, he played 29 minutes a game. And I think what's so great and what makes him such a good fit for this particular team is I think he understands what role he would be playing, right? He's not a guy who needs to be taking all the shots, but he's certainly a guy who can. But you're going to be playing alongside who's probably going to be the number 1 pick in the NBA in AJ Devonsta as well, returning a scorer who averaged 18, 19 in Richie Saunders, and you're going to have a rim running big, and you're going to have a 3-and-D guy right from France. All these guys together, they needed someone who could do it all, right? And he averaged, 4.3 assists, so he knows how to pass to and facilitate. Like, this is a reason we've been saying this for months. This is the perfect acquisition if it happens for BYU, because he can play all those roles. He doesn't need all the minutes, doesn't need all the shots. He can get them whenever he likes. When BYU needs it, he can take care of the ball. And he also, Carter, has experience playing in the Big 12, playing on the biggest stages, but he's still young, right? And he still has all this opportunity to learn and grow. And it's just, I literally you couldn't have handpicked a better point guard for BYU on this team next season.
Absolutely, and I think he brings something that was lacking a little bit this past season, to be honest, is a guard who has a good blend of running an offense, but also can be a dynamic scorer and truly go off in a game. Rob Wright can go off for 30 points in a given game, and that matters in March. You look at the teams that were in the Final Four. You look at the teams that were in the title game last night, Chase. It was L.J. Cryer, It was Walter Clayton. These guards matter so much in March, where eventually you're going to need your guards to go bananas in a game. Mark Sears did it again to BYU. It is a guards game once it becomes March. And that was what we talked about in our portal podcast, where it goes, look, like, to be honest, the most important thing this offseason isn't even as much AJ or Richie coming back. It is solely who are you going to get as your point guard going into this next season, because they run the show. They decide who ends up getting these shots at the end of the day. You could end up like the 22 Auburn team where Jabari Smith and Walker Kessler didn't touch the ball in their second-round March Madness loss. So you don't want to end up like that. If you get a guy like Rob Wright in there, he's okay getting everybody involved. And like you said, he can score and he can go off when needed. And also just the fact that he can score, how much harder does that make it for defenses? Plus, he can play at any tempo. Kevin Young obviously wants to play a little more free-flowing, more high-tempo offense. That fits his game perfectly. I think it's a perfect fit if BYU's able to get it done, and it makes me so excited for next season. Already super excited, but if you get a guy like Rob Wright in there and then you piece up the last few pieces that you need on this roster, you're talking about a true national title contender.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's going to be some crazy things, and they're not even done in the portal. I was just thinking about last season, Carter, and you and I watched almost every single game together, right? The best play BYU had was a high screen and roll with Kay Bikeda and Egor Demin, right? And getting to the basket and figuring it out. And then having Richie Saunders in the corner, the second best play, right? You have Richie one-on-one driving to the basket. Like, those things are like, how do you replace that? Well, a Rob Wright and Kay Bikeda pick and roll is going to be pretty dang cool also. And you're going to have Richie Saunders in the corner. And you're going to have AJ DeBonsta on the wing, right? And the offense that we already thought was this, dynamic, elite, groundbreaking thing that BYU's never seen before is taking another level. It's not skipping a beat, and it's going to become even more dynamic with who they have coming in playing wing and keeping their leading scorer and their center, who was one of the most impactful players on the team on both ends of the floor. So I'm like, I want the season to start because I just want to watch these guys play, man. Like, if this really happens, and we'll see who else they get in the portal, and we can talk about what else they might need after this. It's going to be one of the best offenses in college basketball. It certainly has potential to be the best BYU's ever seen, and that's including the junior years, because of the absurd amount of talent that's going to be on the court.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is, on top of this, with this fit, Rob Wright, 6'1" guard, so he's on the shorter side, obviously. I would like BYU for their next portal ad, assuming they go and get a 3-and-D wing, where, I know they got Diamande already. I think they'd probably like to go get another guy like that. And I'd love for Richie to be playing the two alongside of Rob Wright if he comes to BYU, once again, but if he comes in and play the two alongside Richie, all of a sudden you have a huge lineup. And then, Rob Wright is not much of a liability on the defensive side. They can't attack him too much because you're going to have so much help defense with size.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I just can't wait. I'm like, get this team in blue and on the court, because I just and that's even coming off of an amazing season. And obviously this team was special. But if you are maybe if you're not as locked in as some other people, right, and you're like, who is Rob Wright? I don't even know that name. I'm not on Twitter. Just go watch the last 10 minutes of Baylor BYU, and you'll get to know him real quick, and you'll see what he's all about. He's nasty. He's that guy.
Yeah, and he was doing that kind of stuff in a herky-jerky, dysfunctional Baylor team this year, to be honest. This wasn't a great Scott Drew team. It was a disaster. It had a lot of talent, but none of the pieces fit together, and he was still able to come out successful out of that. Like, I thought he was one of the few shining things from this Baylor season this year, and Baylor fans are very upset about losing him. They thought he was coming back and everything, and this is a big blow for Scott Drew and the Baylor Bears. And so it's if BYU does land him, like I said, this is now you are actually in the national title conversation.
Yeah, it's dare I say Final Four or bust. That it's they'll be that good of a team, and then we'll see what they look like on the court. But as far as what you were saying, Carter, things that they still need to get, At this point, I think the positions are covered. You kind of have like what I think would be your starting five. Now all you need shooters. You're going to be missing Trevin Nell, right? You need guys that can just go out and literally just sit there and shoot the ball and play substantial defense. And then you're also going to be missing Trey Stewart and Mawit Mag, who were so vital in the Cougars' run to end the season because of what they were able to do to the opposing team's best player. You have to find guys who are also going to play defense. You already have an elite rim protector in Keba Keita, but just finding 3 and D, like you said, a wing, even another guard in there like Mawit Mag, who can take on these elite guards that you're sure to play in Big 12 play, it is, I think, honestly the last thing they need. And we'll see who else they get because they're not done.
Yeah, I think it might not be the worst thing in the world to get an emergency like third big, just like maybe a guy that like, probably ends up redshirting, but you want him there just in case.
Yeah, you don't know if Mihailo Boskovic is going to come back or not. That could be the third right there. Again, I don't know what's going on, but between
I don't know.
Keba
I don't know what his deal
Staten,
is, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah.
Anyhow, I'm curious to see. Back to some Twitter questions real quick. Jackson Zumwalt, he said, how do we make sure this team is built to be a title contender and not a fraud team like a LSU with Ben Simmons or a Washington with Markelle Fultz? We do what Duke did, but better. Further the question, what players do we need to keep or what or who or what skill set do we target? We kind of talked about skill sets and people that we target. I still think there's a lot of players that are going to hit the portal in BYU. The other thing you need to be wary of if you're a BYU fan now is that a lot of these dudes are going to say BYU is in contact with them, and a good chunk of these guys aren't actually in contact with BYU. Their agents are just putting BYU and Duke and Kansas's name on there to drive up prices. They're not actually in there. So it's kind of deceiving in that way if they're actually going after some of these guys. BYU knows who they're going after, and there's going to be a lot more names that hit the portal. So it's tough to figure out who's going to be there because I think it's names that haven't quite entered yet. Kind of like how it was when we were thinking about Rob Wright, and at the point guard spot before this. But back to the original question. How do we make sure this team is not like the Ben Simmons LSU teams or the Markelle Fultz Washington teams? It's roster construction. It's what Duke did around Cooper Flagg this year. Build it around your best player and around the certain type of system you want to play. Cooper Flagg is unbelievable. He was super unselfish, and then you built it around an NBA lottery pick in Con Knipple. You've got rim protection. You've got great veteran guards at that spot. And that's exactly what BYU's doing. You're going to have a veteran in Richie Saunders. You're going to have rim protection in Keba Keita and Staten coming in. You're going to have eventually you're going to have shooting as well, all to build around AJ DeBansa. It's a perfect fit. I think it's going to work out. I don't think they're anywhere near that. Also, on top of that, Kevin Young showed last season that, this past season rather, we're not frauds. I'm a legit head coach. I don't think this is something BYU fans have to worry about. Look, you can always get upset in March, but I would be genuinely floored if BYU wasn't, in the mix next season.
Oh, me too. I'd be shocked the way that this roster is going to look. And like you hit it on the head, like they're already finding the right guys to put around AJ DeBansa, who's going to be the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft. And it also is a credit to him because I think he also understands that he doesn't have to take a million shots a game. I think he legitimately wants to go win. And that's the problem with some of these Markelle Fultz or, these Ben Simmons that we reference is like, it was just all about them, right? It was like, oh, look who we have here. This is so fun. And I think if you're BYU, you certainly had a danger of doing that when AJ committed, right? But now you're bringing in all these other guys to say, look, we're not just making this season about having the best guy. We're making this season about building a team to go deep, to be back in this tournament and get past this second weekend and do something special. So I honestly, Carter, I don't see a world where they do not, meet our expectations or even exceed them unless there's some weird off the court thing, right? This guy doesn't get along with this guy, blah, blah, blah. which I don't think is going to happen, but is always running a risk. And one of the risks of bringing in a bunch of different guys, especially elite guys who grew up their whole life as the best player on the team, now all of a sudden, look who your teammate is. And if you're returning this season, right? If you're Richie Saunders, for example, you've played with like 50 different teammates, right? And you've had to find a way to fit their style and get along with all of them and get to know them and all these things. And so it can be a little different, could be a little weird. But at the end of the day, I don't think any of that happens. It's just, I just don't see a way basketball wise, X's and O's, the talent's all going to be there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, too, because in the portal, I think a lot of teams and coaches are quick to react when someone hits the portal. They freak out, and they're like, I want him now in my program. And I don't think they look at, okay, what's going on here? Why is he hitting the portal? What's his attitude like? Yeah, exactly. Look at Kansas of last year. That's a great example, the perfect example, to be honest. And so that's why I think this BYU coaching staff, that's what I love what Kevin Young said today in the press conference, where he's like, look, we're not trying to rush these things. We're making very calculated moves, and we're taking our time with this stuff. And that's the key, because you got to be able to vet out who you're bringing into this program, because like Eric Mika was saying on our interview, one bad apple, all of a sudden this team can be toast. And so that's why you got to bring in the right dudes. And I think they're doing that, and I have full faith in this coaching staff to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. You just look at the best teams. Look at every Final Four team. Those guys loved each other. They cared about each other. Even Auburn, who had to turn a plane around at the beginning of the season because there's a fight going on, right? You could just see it in the post-game interviews, all the away, the social posts of they just love each other, right? And that Florida team, those guys were doing it for each other. Even Duke, Houston, all those succeeding teams, it's camaraderie, it's chemistry, it's those things. And so I don't think BYU is going to have any problems with that. This year they had it. They all genuinely loved each other. Some guys are leaving, but I think that's more basketball than anything at the end of the day. But that you do need to have that. So I think BYU is going to get it done.
I would even go as far to say every team in the Sweet 16 had that too.
Yeah, no, seriously, like that's what it takes. Like, it's the intangible things, right? You can have as much talent as you want, but if you don't want it more than the other team, if you don't care about winning, if you don't have that dog mentality, and if you don't genuinely like your teammates and like passing them the ball, as crazy as it sounds, that happens all the time, especially in college basketball, you're not going to win anything.
No, 100%. Going back to some of the Twitter questions real quick, he also said, another question, because my head is spinning, do we have a legitimate chance at Rob Wright or another elite point guard? Yes, BYU has a very, very, very legitimate chance at Rob Wright.
Yeah. They got a pretty good chance. Better than anyone, I'd say.
BYU Braun said, if we don't get a point guard in the portal, BYU will. Is Dawson Baker our best option, or is AJ going to run point forward type thing? Dawson Baker, I don't think will be running point guard at honestly any point next season, to be honest. I don't even think he's the backup point guard for BYU. I think they need to go get a true ball handler. I think Dawson Baker's best role, and that's not a slight to Dawson or anything, I just think his best role is playing the two in college. Yeah,
Dawson can be a guy that can kind of turn games around a little bit for you. Like that Wisconsin game, he was so big for BYU, and he got buckets in the toughest moments. It wasn't playing point guard, though. Like his best skill set is when he gets to come off screens, and get to that 15 feet and gets to work and finds his way in. So it's not Dawson Baker, y'all. I know people were tripping because I think BYU or ESPN did their way too early predictions, and they put a roster, and it was like Dawson Baker. I'm like, look, that guy didn't watch any BYU. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He just saw the roster.
But also at the same time, it's more so it's like, well, okay, Egor declared who's left on this roster because you can't report things that haven't totally happened yet and base it off that. And so if you're he's just filling in the spot, process of elimination, and honestly, probably just a clickbait article if you're doing a way too early top 25. Everyone's doing it just for clicks. And I respect it. I don't hate it. I like it. I like people are like, oh, we should abolish the AP poll. No, the AP poll is great. I like the AP preseason poll. Give us discussion points. Give us stuff to talk about. And then he also said, is AJ going to run point forward type thing? I think we do see AJ run point a lot and bring the ball up a lot. And I think BYU plays a little bit of positionless basketball as much as they can next year. And it's going to be fun. It's going to look like an NBA team at times.
Absolutely. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. It'll be like, as everyone loved the out of bounds sets, everyone loved the plays to get a shooter open. It's only going to get better from here, folks, with this squad and who they have. It's going to be dang fun. You're going to see a lot of different styles on offense.
They still got a lot of work to do in the portal, but like what we're hearing and where things are headed, it's very positive. And, there's no better time to be a BYU fan than right now. And the sky's the limit, man. Like this team, it's really like, it is crazy to say this because BYU fans, like, it's just not a typical thing, but this is a national title contender. Like, get that through your head. This is what this team can do. And now, the other thing is you got to remember, it's like, okay, if BYU loses a November game, it's not the end of the world. This team's not going 40-0 next season, but they will be in the mix come March. I feel like I can almost guarantee that.
Yeah, I think you can. I think it's safe to say if we get roasted, in 11 months, then so be it. But I think everyone's right there along with us. It'll be a weird feeling, Carter. I think people, you're going to see people like hopping on the BYU bandwagon. Like, and it's it's not like, they're plucky. They're fun to watch. They're so scrappy. Like they're Cinderella. They're going to be like, honestly, the level of Duke. And there's going to be like, oh, like, who are you rooting for? Like, I just love BYU, dude. Like, I love watching AJ. I love watching Rob Wright. I love watching these guys. Like,
if Rob Wright comes. If Rob Wright comes.
If. But like,
Rob White.
How many Duke fans have nothing to do with Duke? Like, BYU is going to start to get some of that generation of fans who are just like, why do you like BYU? It's like, dude, that 2020 whatever team was so fun, and I've loved them ever since, kind of deal.
I think that's in there as well. I don't think it's crazy. Shout out our guy Jack Carpenter. I don't think it's crazy to think BYU could end up being a villain next season.
No, I mean, they've already kind of had that perspective. I've seen some even national pundits being like, all they have is money. Like, BYU's buying their team. It's just money. They're throwing all these guys. They're getting these guys. Even some Rob Wright stuff with the rumors throwing out, people are like, all he cares about is money. All his parents want is for him to make money. And so I could see that legitimately becoming a thing, that BYU, villains of the West, they buy their team, blah, 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 all that stuff. So even that's fun, though. I think, like, there's no need to get all worked up about it. That
fun. Means you're in the mix. That means you're an actual player in this thing. And that's what I love. That's what Justin Young was saying. Let's play in April. That's what this is all about. We're not coming out here, BYU's not going to be satisfied with just making the tournament anymore. Now you're actually playing for the real thing, which is so awesome. And they're going to get talked about so much this offseason. It's going to be a ton of fun. Last Twitter question I forgot to mention at the top. Brooke Bronfin on Twitter. Why did Egor post that on IG and make me believe that he would stay? Go get your bag, Egor, but that broke my heart. I think BYU fans got teased a little bit and got their hopes up, which is okay. Like, that's nothing wrong about that or anything. But man, he made the right decision, and best of luck.
And I don't think he was trying to tease anyone. I think English is like his third language. I know he spoke a lot of Spanish today, and I think he was just like, I love this quote, and he wanted to post it. I don't think he was underlying some sort of cryptic message in there. No. I think we just read into it because of the weight of the situation. That's all.
No. Anything else before we go?
No, other than just keep looking to the portal. We'll keep doing pods as long as they keep adding people and all that stuff. And this is going to be the most fun like, these next 12 months are going to be the craziest BYU basketball full year season ever. And we're just blessed to be a part of it. We're excited for all y'all to continue to tag along. Is this our official announcement? We are doing this next year. We're sticking around. Yeah, we are. We're sticking around. We're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. Might not be in the building as much, but we'll be doing the podcast. Don't get me wrong. Anyhow, make sure to subscribe at Church Ball Pod on everything. We'll be coming,
as the more portal news comes in and everything, we'll be doing more breakdowns and talking about stuff and trying to get interviews in this off season as well. So if you have any ideas for the podcast, reach out. Also, very poor job by me. We should have led with this, Chase. Shout out the church ball bracket winner himself. Let me get the Twitter handle real quick so people can go follow him. The truest ball knower, at Drew Haslam. At Drew Haslam. Drew Haslam, number one ball knower of the church ball listeners group chat. He won the bracket challenge. He had Florida going all the way, like a lot of people
awesome
did.
Bracket.
He had an unbelievable bracket.
He
had
really
a
good.
fantastic bracket. Deserves it. He said, "Who knows ball? You know ball." We're getting all that stuff sent to you and everything. So
reach out to us on the DMs so we can get you your stuff.
Yeah, been in contact already. So Drew, we'll get that out there. Shout out to you, and shout out to everyone that listens. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll be back very soon as more